More and more, as I build my formula stack in Excel, I am taking advantage of the let function. I just find that it makes my formulas easier to read, faster to calculate, and much easier to debug because I can control the final step and return an intermediate calculation very, very easily. Now, the challenge with that, of course, is that if you've got a formula like this and you're trying to convert this out to use a let function, how can you recognize that you've got a couple of different instances of H15? How do you go and wrap this in let and build your variables and all this kind of work? It takes a little bit of time. So for that reason, what we've done here is we've built something called the Letify Monkey. And I want to just show you here right now. I'm just going to select this block of cells in this area here. And these are all duplicate formulas. They're all relative, absolute, exactly the same. So it's basically the same unique formula. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and grab my Letify Monkey. And when I open the Letify Monkey up, it opens up this form here and it says, look, we recognize what your original formula is here. And you'll also notice that we've actually created you a let version of the entire thing here ready to go. Now, there's a few cool things around how this works is that I am using the auto name with preface, and I've used a preface of var. If I wanted to just go and use a preface of, I don't know, let's put in something else, but vars with an S, you'll notice that it's renamed every one of these variables for me. But this is just a handy thing to get me started. I'm going to go and get rid of this because this does get saved between instances for my preferences. I can now go and look at this by saying, hey, you know what? H15, this is the reference that I'm actually looking at, is now highlighted in blue on my worksheet. So I can see that's my volume increase override. So I'm just going to go and say, let's give this one a name. We'll call this rate override. Tab, and you can see it's updated in the formula for me, nice and ready to go. There's two uses of this particular one. Just some information that we need to know. That's all good. You can hit tab and you'll now see that it says, all right, cool. We're looking at F7. Let's highlight that in the cell right over here. So this is the global increase rate. So I'm going to go and mark this one to rate global. There we go. Tab, tab, tab. You can now see that we've highlighted units sold. So we highlight the cell reference for you so that you can actually see what it is to help name your variables here. So this one here, this is my volume. Now, that's cool and everything, but I actually want volume to be at the top of my let statement. So I'm just going to go and say, let's move this up and up. And then to be honest with you, I want to move this one down because I want to go with my volume first, then my global rate, and then my override rate. There we go. Nice and easy. If I ever want to move back to the original cell, I can go and click on this little button here. It will take me and select the individual cell on the worksheet, or I can click on these individual cell references and bounce around to them to see exactly what's going on. You'll notice the formula bar, of course, expands and collapses depending on what's actually going on there. So we'll go back and see it hasn't applied it yet, but this is the original formula we have. These, by the way, if I just move this up here for a second, these are all of the identical cells that we have selected as well. So we can see what's going on with those as well if we need to for any reason. Now at this point in time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and click apply, and you can see that it's now applied that formula here. And if I hit close, I go and take a look, you can see that it has indeed applied it to all of the common cells in that block. So there we go. Beautiful, nice, easy way to letify something from a simple factor. Now, let me go over to the P&L sheet over here, because in this case, I want you to notice here that we have a variety of different formulas. This has got an R8 divided by absolute R8. Over here, we've got R11 divided by absolute R8. Okay, so we're actually trying to divide by the percent of total revenue in this case. Here we have a subtotal and a slightly different subtotal. This one here is picking up this range, and this one is picking up a larger range. Okay. Down here, we have a difference that's going on in this cell as well that's actually subtracting a couple things here. So the question is, can we letify all of these? Well, why not? Let's go and grab all these guys here. Let's go to our FX monkeys, Letify Monkey, and I'm just going to move this here out of the way so we can sort of see what's going on with this. And if we were to go and say, let me click on some of the identical formulas, I can see in this case what's going on. In my formula bar, it's showing me my R11. Over here is the original formula still. So I can look at this and say, all right, so what is R8 when it doesn't have anything here? This is going to be my current row. Meanwhile, over here, this is revenue. And there we go. Current row and revenue are both in there nicely. And again, if I wanted revenue up the top, because that one's sort of the absolute factor, I can do that by just moving it up. And now what I can do is I can go and say apply. And that's going to apply this to all of these different cell blocks here. All of the identical formulas, including the origin, are now set up to that new formula. So now, if I can prove this, if I click on identical, you can see this is exactly what's going on in this. The current row is R11. Beautiful. Now, let me go and click next, because we've got 5 references inside here. There are 5 different unique formulas. So we'll click next. And at this point in time, we can see we've got a var1, which is pointing to these guys here. This is my cost of goods sold here. So I'm just going to go and rename this as COGS and update that. There we go. We can now go and say next on this one here. And this one here is going to be my gross profit. Let's put an underscore in there, make it a little bit easier to read as well. That's nice. We'll apply that. So we've now got our gross profit range. I should probably also mention with this one here as well, there is an option to name the final step. And I think this is actually a good option to do, because it means that I can always come down and just change this last option to gross profit, see what the gross profit is, and then change it back to return to get the final step out of it. On the other hand, if I don't like that structure, if I want to go gross profit and then go directly into the if error, if I uncheck this box, it will absolutely do that. You don't have to name the step and then call it again. It's just a best practice to do it, which is why I go that direction. All right, let's go and take a look at the next one. What do we got here? This looks like another subtotal. So this one though, this is my OPEX, or operating expenses. So we'll go op expenses. There we go. And then finally, at the end of this, it looks like we have here, we've got our gross profit. And finally, we're going to have our operating expenses, op expenses. So at this point, if I can type, there we are, I can apply that. I've now got my gross profit, my operating expenses with the return statement there. I can see that that's absolutely what's been put in the cell here. And now I can go and say, I can go back to previous, or I can close the form and everything's good to go. Now, the other thing though around this is that I also have the ability to go and grab a different block of cells and say, hey, I don't really want to leave this thing yet. I'm not done. So I'm going to say use selected cells. And this will now reset the entire form and say, all right, we've noticed in this case, you've got an external component here, which is on a different worksheet. We can see that we've got the off-sheet reference in this place. Again, if I go and click on this, it'll take me there so I can see it. I now know this is going to be my current month forecast. If I go back to F8, it'll take me back to the original sheet, and I can rename this one to forecast current month. There we are, and apply. And now we're good to go. Now, you might wonder, why would I ever go and name something that's just a single reference like that? Helps document a little bit. Also helps set yourself up if you do need to make it a little bit bigger later on. This is a stylistic thing. You may not ever do this, but at the end of the day, it just makes it super easy to be able to actually build these things. So you don't have to put a lot of work and indenting into it in order to make it actually all happen. So hopefully you'll find that this is a useful feature available to all pro users of Monkey Tools. Hope you enjoy it.